Good morning. I want to welcome everybody to the Rules Committee meeting. I'm joined today by Council Member Weezar, and we do have a quorum, and it's my understanding that Mr. Labange is somewhere roaming the halls of this building. I have been informed. I'm sure he's not lost, but he's roaming. Okay, Madam Clerk, we have some items.
There are 7 items before the committee this morning.
Okay, now 3 of which I wanted to just move on consent. Could you read items 1 through 3?
Certainly, items 1 and 2 are reports from the city attorney, ordinance, and resolutions relative to calling the city's primary nominating election for March 5th, 2013, and the general municipal election for May 21st, 2013, and consolidating elections for members of the LA Community College District and a bond proposition of the Burbank Unified School District.
Okay, so on item 1, we will adopt the city attorney report and draft ordinance. On 2, we will adopt the city attorney report and a resolution. And on item 3, we will adopt the city attorney's report, draft ordinance, and resolutions. That brings us where?
And just for the record, item 3 was a proposed charter amendment to transfer general services police personnel to allow them to purchase prior sworn city service.
Okay, thank you for putting that on the record, not allowing your chair to take a shortcut. So that brings us where?
That leaves 4 additional items, items number 4, 5, 6, and 7. And those are all reports from the city attorney, resolutions and ordinances relative to proposed ballot measures.
Okay, we'll take all of those items up together. I do have some cards on those items. Now, I understand this is a special meeting where we really don't have to take public comment, correct?
Not general public comment, however, comment on the specific agenda items, yes.
Okay, well, I was going to take it anyway because I'm in a good mood because my birthday is Sunday. I'll be 39 again, okay? So, where is she at? I don't see Daphne. Please come forward. My old friend, Michael Karsh, Patricia Douglas. Go right ahead.
And just for the record, item number 4 is regarding a proposed ballot measure to provide funding for the Department of Rec and Parks through a parcel tax.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Daphne Sue. I'm here on behalf of the City Project and our diverse allies. We support dedicated funding for parks and park programs with an equity plan in place to ensure that the benefits and burdens are distributed equally and fairly for all, including park poor and income poor communities. It's been well documented that disparities of park resource and park funding exist in Los Angeles. An equity plan is good policy and good law. We ask you to ensure that any proposed tax ballot measure that provides funding for parks and park programs include an equity plan. The equity plan should include the following elements. 1, a clear description of what the city plans to do with the proposed revenue. 2, an analysis of the burdens, taxes and fees, and benefits of parks and park programs on all people. 3, an analysis of alternatives. 4, the full and fair inclusion of minority and low-income populations in the decision-making process. And 5, an implementation plan to address any equity concerns identified in the analysis. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, how have you been?
We've been well, thank you.
Good.
Michael Karsh with Ken Spiker and Associates, representing the Los Angeles Parking Association. The association is opposed to the POT increase in item 5, and we believe that this has been argued before your committee before.
Patricia Douglas, Laura Alasso.
Yes, good morning. I'm Patricia Douglas, president of Southwest Los Angeles Association of Realtors. We represent our association is about 300. We represent thousands of homeowners and sellers in the city of Los Angeles. Here to speak about the transfer tax. We're hoping that the council will consider the 1% transfer tax as opposed to the other options. The other option seems to be a little disappropriate, as they are only pertain to those who are selling their property or transferring or moving it. 0.5% is economical for everybody, and we think that would bring more proceeds to the city and county. So I'm speaking in favor that the council will consider the 0.5% tax as opposed to the other options you might be considering. Thank you.
Good morning.
Okay, can I stop you? Sure. You want to just indicate which each one of the items are? If you could give us a moment.
Certainly. Item number 4 was the ballot measure for the rec and parks. Item number 5 is relative to a ballot measure to increase the parking occupancy tax. Item number 6 is the ballot measure to modify the real property transfer tax. And item 7 is the ballot measure to provide neighborhood public safety and vital city services funding by adopting a 0.5-cent transactions and use tax.
Thank you. Now we're clear. My name is Laura Olaso. I represent 3 realtor associations within LA County, totaling about 6,000 realtors and the hundreds of thousands of homeowners that they deal with, many of whom live in the city of Los Angeles. We appreciate all that the City Council has done in the past years to cut its budget to try to balance it and still maintain vital public safety services. That said, we absolutely oppose any increase in the documentary transfer tax and a parcel tax to help balance that budget. It is inherently unfair to dump the city's woes on only those people who either sell their property or own property, thereby letting go anybody that rents from helping to pay for the vital services within the community that we all appreciate. We can, however, support a 0.5-cent sales tax increase. We believe that that is a fair and proper way to go about increasing the city's revenues and making it fair that everyone who appreciates those services will pay for it. We urge you to drop every other one of those ballot considerations that is before you today and only move forward with the 0.5-cent sales tax, thereby we hope that will help ensure a victory and additional revenues that are needed for the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all of you for coming down today. That ends public comment. If anyone else wants to speak, submit a card now. So I'd like to get the CAO and the responsible city department folk to come forward.
Good morning, Deputy City Attorney Dan Whitley.
Good morning. Don't be shy, guys. Harit, you want to get up there? So I guess I want to ask the CAO to summarize the report.
My name's Robin Engel. I'm the assistant CAO. In October, the CAO's office, with the CLA, researched 4 options for raising revenue for the city through taxes: the parcel tax, the rec and parks, the parking tax, the documentary transfer tax, and the sales tax. All 4 options were analyzed to determine how the proposed ballot measure, if passed, would impact the general fund and the projected deficit for 2013 and 14. We're happy to walk through them one at a time, or if you have questions, the analysts are here to provide answers. I can also just kind of walk through the projected
walk through the process and what you would recommend.
So we looked at, just in summary, we looked at the projected deficit for 2013-14 is $216 million. When we look at the sales tax revenue, projected revenue, if passed at a half cent, would be between $208 million and $215 million, with a range of about $7 million. With regard to the documentary transfer tax, which is a tiered approach where half the homeowners, if they sold, would pay the same or less, and half would pay more. The projected revenue for that is between 76 and 82 million in the first year.
What was that again?
Between 76 and 82 million
And the sales tax is how much?
is between 208 and 215.
Okay, continue.
Parking tax, just getting to the revenue projections, were between 41 and 43 million. And for the parcel tax, the projected revenue was 30.5 million. And then depending on how the council proceeded with if we excluded related costs, 30.5 million would go to programs for parks. If we included related costs, then only about 6 million would go to new programs and 24 million would go to the general fund.
The sales tax, all of that money goes to the general fund?
Correct. All the revenue from the sales tax would go to
The transfer tax, all of that goes to the...
Correct. For the parking.
And so the one where it relates to rec and parks, we'd only get a portion. And our portion would be what? The general fund portion would be what?
24 million.
And Councilman, that really depends on how it would be structured.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, we've received a letter from the mayor's office, was submitted earlier today. Can you give me your opinion on this letter?
Councilmember Harith Trivedi from the City Attorney's Office. We are in receipt of the mayor's letter asking for certain recitals to be included in the ordinance and materials related to the transaction and use tax measure, the funding measure. They are, on our review, we believe we can include those, and we will be able to include those in the ordinance that comes back to you on Tuesday for your consideration by the full council.
Okay, now, I've been told, and after review of the successful cities that put sales tax on the ballot, all of them create some kind of a citizens oversight and accountability committee together. And so I think that it's in our best interest to do that, so I'd like this to be amended to reflect that. I'd also would like to suggest that the city's controller chair that committee.
We can include a provision in the materials and come back on Tuesday. We'll work with staff to develop the exact language for that provision to include in the measure as well.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for all of their hard work on these issues in such a short period of time. We've been joined by Mr. Laban, so I guess we can get started. I mean, since you are LA's ambassador to the world. What I'd like to recommend to my two dear friends, the one to my right and left, is that this committee take action on the item that deals specifically with the sales tax, that this committee recommend that to the full body. But also, I will send the other three items without recommendation to the council floor to afford other members the opportunities to ask questions about those items if they like. But I would hope that this committee would take a strong stance and recommend that the direction that we go in would be the sales tax. I mean, for obvious reasons. It nets us the most amount of money. If you look at what happened Tuesday night, out of 36 elections statewide, 29 of them were successful where related to an increase in the sales tax. Some of those that did not pass, needed a two-thirds, and even many of those got in the 60s. In certain areas, the sales tax increase received 70+% of the vote. So from a pragmatic standpoint, I will believe that that is the way that we go. And I do also believe that it nets us the most money. And we could also look at ways in which we could help rec and parks. So I am going to recommend that we approve. Which item is that? Is that item 7?
Correct.
So without objection, this committee will recommend to the full body item 7, and we will send the other 3 items to the floor without a recommendation. Members, are there any questions? I mean, have at it, Tom.
Well, I just support it, Mr. Weston. Thank you very much, and making an analysis of all this in preparation for this meeting. And I think it is 50 plus 1 on the electorate. What is the parcel tax?
Parcel tax is two-thirds.
50 plus 1?
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds. So there's a difference there, which is real important. And we're on par with some of our border cities that have, Santa Monica, I believe, has a...
And Culver City just passed one Tuesday.
As on that. But Mr. Wesson, your suggestion, as I know, because you're a great parks man as well, if we could just ask anyone at the table for the city minister office, is there anything that we could highlight in this that would go to parks? I know it all goes to general fund, but if there's some highlight that the priority be public safety parks or something in this area that would encourage the people that they know that this is going to right there. It's not going to administrative cost, overhead, etc.
Well, I think on Tuesday, when you actually see the language, that you'll be pleased with it. It's one that keeps our voting threshold at 50% plus 1.
Right.
And it gives the council the maximum flexibility in its usage of the funds. I mean, the fire department is, which is in the public safety, under the public safety umbrella. I'm sure all of us would like to fix that. Our firefighters have done a phenomenal job, and they're basically operating with chewing gum and baling wire. But I feel comfortable with the way that we're going. In fact, I'll just give you this little tidbit. Cities began to do this in the 2010 election cycle. There were about 3 dozen or so of these items on the ballots throughout the state, and over 2/3 of them passed. So I think we'll write this in a way that maximizes our chances for success.
Well, I appreciate what you said about the fire department and making the light forces back to task forces and engines. But if in the menu, as you said, if it could have that in the park issue, which is real important, that it's not paid for administrative costs or things of this nature here, but for people who are in the field doing the job that's necessary on that.
We will look at all of that.
Right.
Mr. Huizar?
Thank you. And some of the reports we've seen have some information about cities and how we compare to them in terms of the sales tax. In my district, some of the cities I neighbor, we don't have that information. So I was hoping before we see this in council, if we could get the information for Glendale, Pasadena, South Pasadena, Alhambra, unincorporated East Los Angeles, and Vernon. If we could also get those cities as well, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huizar and Mr. Labange. So again, Madam Clerk, is there any more business before this committee?
For clarification, on item number 7, the sales tax, my understanding is the committee is recommending to adopt the city attorney report, the draft ordinance and resolutions, and you're requesting the city attorney's office to transmit a new draft ordinance incorporating the recitals made by the mayor, a provision to create a citizens oversight and accountability committee, making the controller chair of the committee, and creating similar powers as in the controller's office.
Yes.
Thank you.
You've got it. Okay, so now we are...
Mr. Weston?
Yes.
If I could just make one
Of
comment.
course you can.
In answer to Mr. Weisar's
Anybody
question.
that watches Spartacus, I will allow to speak in this committee. Yeah, see, now she's going to turn red because she likes violent movies, and I just told all of City Hall that she is a Spartacus fan.
Yes, I am.
So am I, but everybody knows I like.
In answer to Mr. Weisar's question on sales tax around the city, those particular cities are at 8.75%. As a matter of information. And just to touch on Mr. Labange's issue with regard to setting aside money, it does create some issues with vote count that would be necessary to pass. However, with the addition of the language to have an oversight committee, part of those issues could be dealt with in that respect and how the money is spent.
Right.
Andrew.
And could I just ask one other question?
No, go right ahead.
For the CAO, there's often a conversation about chargebacks in departments, and that the Department of Water and Power charges for water or charges for power. Have they always charged for water and always charged for power? And I know you're new, but Karen may know, and you're pointing to... okay.
Terry Sauer with the CAO's office. Yes, Mr. Labange, they've always charged for water and power. I believe the reason for that is it has something to do with the transfers that the Department of Water and Power makes to the city, but we can get you additional
I just
information.
want to absolutely know for sure, because I believe in the transfer, and I thank Water and Power for the transfer. We own it. They do not, as they do in other counties, throughout their system, pay property tax. The Department of Water and Power doesn't pay property tax on their distribution stations, on their facilities, but the transfer kind of covers that. And many activists in the community say, well, we should get a franchise free. And I do believe there's some, and if we can look at that, because I do believe there's an established pattern of compensation for that from the transfer. I want to make that clear, because some of the arguments people have, Mr. City Attorney, is that they think that Water and Power is extending their arm back, which they've always paid for, except there were no meters. Now there's meters, right, Regina, at parks, and so we know what water we use and power we use and to be in compliance. So we get that cleared and make sure that it's stated in the transfer on a different issue, but unrelated, but related. Thank you, Mr. Wesson.
Okay, Mr. Labange. Okay, so again, we're going to recommend item 7, and we're just going to send the other 3 items to the council floor. So without objection, that'll be the order? Okay, thank you all so very much. There's no further business before this committee. This committee is adjourned.